edit either. But and so I was listening to, and we'll record the video. We can record the audio in a sec. So I'm like, meanwhile I'm doing 10, 12 cars a day, for a couple $100 a day,
which is insane.
And
you can't keep that pace up for
no, you can't keep that pace up. There's a hummingbird in here.
Beautiful.
And I'm like, I can't. We're about to have our first baby. I'm like, I can't do this. Like, this is not sustainable, right? I started at 19, and I was 20. Started at 19, got married at 21, had, let's see, in 2014, 2012, she was born. How old was I? 6 years ago, I was 23. So having the first baby at 23.
You're 29?
Huh?
You're 29 now?
I'm 29, yeah.
Okay.
So I thought, I'm 23, I can't do, one, I don't know if I can make enough money doing what I'm doing.
And at 23, you probably realize this is not easy work.
This is not easy work.
This hurts. This hurts the body.
This hurts.
Right.
And I don't want to be 50 and doing this.
Right.
Like, just, and all growing up, I always...
Which isn't far from me, and you're looking at
right,
it. And I'm going to tell you what's going to hurt. And it doesn't get easy.
And I don't want to do it because I have to.
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of always been my thing is like, and I try to tell people who are detailing like, oh, why don't you scale up the business and blah, blah, blah. And that was never my goal. My goal was never to have like 10 trucks on the road. I always did it for a lifestyle that I wanted. Right. I wanted to own my own business because...
The whole 10 truck thing, an employee sounds
miserable.
It's an aggravation. It's not worth it.
And so... it was just, that's never what I wanted. And I have tried to hire employees over the years. And
have you really?
And it's a nightmare. It's a complete nightmare.
To do what? Just like, hey, you do the basic washes while I'm looking at the details.
Because I know how to get work.
Okay.
Like I was telling you at breakfast, like, I know how to get more work than I can handle. The problem is I can't handle it. So I was like, well, this is easy. All I got to do is put another truck on the road. Right? But in order to put another truck on the road, I can't drive 2 cars at once.
Right.
So I got to have... someone else do that. So in order to do that, I got to train him in my ways so that I feel comfortable sending them out. Well, I couldn't even get someone to freaking show up for more than a month because it's hard work. So I started thinking, man, I got to figure something else out. Like, I can't detail forever. I can't really scale this thing because either I train someone for 6 months and then they think they could do it on their own. And that happened.
So you were worried about them kind of going, what if Jimbo can do this, I can do this, and
I wasn't worried.
Why do I need to do this with him?
Well, I wasn't worried about them like stealing clients or anything. I was worried that they were going to ditch me.
Right.
So that wasn't really an option. And meanwhile, I'm listening to these podcasts and being inspired or whatever you want to call it. And it's like, So I was talking to a guy one day, Pete, who I do this thing called the Detailer Inner Circle with now. So I'm talking with this guy, Pete. And it's like 2014, like summer. I'm over detailing because it's friggin' hot. You saw how much I was sweating, and it's not even hot. You say you can wear a jacket, and I'm sweating.
I'm cold. I've got my arms crossed, and this is cool to me.
And I'm sweating.
The breeze coming out of the garage actually feels cool.
Right. The studio, Scott. The studio.
Go ahead. You can edit that later.
I'm not editing. And I'm talking with this guy, Pete, and I'm like, dude, I'm just like, my mind... And I've always been... had a business mind, always been business oriented, always knew I was going to own my own business. I just never knew what it was going to be. And when I worked at other places, I had 3 jobs before I started my own business, and none of them lasted more than 2 years because I always thought they were doing it wrong and I could do it better.
Ooh.
If they would just let me do it, I would. And in all those jobs, I reached to. So my first job was In-N-Out, right? And
we're talking about In-N-Out Burger.
In-N-Out Burger.
Oh wow.
That was my first job. And there's 7 levels of employment before you can get to a manager at In-N-Out.
Where'd you go?
I got to 2.
And you wanted out?
I wanted out within 6 months. But the interesting part about it was that within, and this isn't like a humble bragger, it's just part of my story, but I was a level 1, entry-level employee, cleaning the dining rooms. I had the managers asking me to take a walk with them out in the parking lot because they thought I would be a good district manager.
Oh, from level 1?
From level 1.
They were thinking, wow, we've got somebody here we could groom.
Right. So my second job, I worked at a surf shop. I worked there 1 year. Within the first 6 months, I was an assistant store manager at 17 for a 4-location surf shop.
But retail businesses doesn't seem like that's your cup of tea.
Sucked. It was horrible. And I saw it, and then I got out. Restaurant, I was there 2 years and whatever. Point being is that I was able to rise to the top quickly, but then never wanted to do it because I thought they were doing it wrong. So I always knew my only chance was my own business, right? Okay. So anyway, fast forward to when I'm detailing, having a hard time scaling it up, really because I don't want to deal with the headache of employees and all that, right?
Right.
Let alone finding them. So, like this podcast thing, and I'm sitting there talking to this guy Pete, and I'm like, dude, like this is crazy. These people are making 65, 70 grand a year podcasting, doing this. Like this is a lot better than physically working.
Yeah.
And at that point, I had been detailing like 6 years. So I was like, and like I told you before, I was doing 10, 12 cars a day. Like I'd done a lot of cars. Mm-hmm. And he's like, you're a dumbass. I was like, what? He's like, why don't you start a podcast about detailing? He's like, you probably know everything there is to know about detailing. I'm like, well, yeah, because I did fleet work and hack. I knew how to hack cars. I knew how to make money doing it because I had to. And I'm like, someone's already got to be doing it, right? There's no way I could be the first one. No one was doing a podcast about detailing. And so I figured, I'm going to do it. And I'm going to start with my phone and my headphones and record through the voice memo app.
So it wasn't visual, it was in the beginning?
It wasn't visual. It was all audio. Okay. So, and no one was doing it, so that was my white space. That was the way that I would get ahead of the game, was I figured if I was searching for a detailing podcast, someone else was.
Right.
It couldn't have only been business podcasts that were doing well.
Sure.
So, but then, and this is kind of where it segues to all the way back before we started recording, was I thought to myself, no one knows, I'm not in these Facebook groups. I'm not a part of the detail community. Mm-hmm. No one knows me. I don't know anyone. Like, I'm just doing my thing as a one-man guy in Southern California. That's it. So how am I going to let people know about me? How am I going to find people know about me other than them organically searching on the podcast app, which in 2014 podcasting was still very much nothing, right? So I thought, well, I'm just going to interview people. Because here's the thought I had. Who's Larry King without the people that he interviewed?
Right.
He's no one. I mean, he's Larry King, but he's Larry King because of who he's interviewed.
Now, you've interviewed some pretty influential people in all the detail.
Everyone.
You did Barry McGuire. Mm-hmm. I remember you doing stuff with Ivan LaCroix. Mm-hmm. How did they come find you, or did you reach out to them and say, Barry, I have this little podcast thing. Would you be willing to talk?
So for most
But before you go any further,
yeah,
did guys like Barry McGuire and Ivan LaCroix or Dr. David Caducci, we'll talk about this, but we won't talk about that? Is it as transparent as this?
Yes.
Okay.
And there's a couple people that...
Did you ever feel like you wanted to poke them a little bit? Like, hey, listen, Mr. McGuire, I've tried this product, and to be honest with you, it stinks.
So, I guess I wasn't as confident back then as I am now.
Okay.
So, how the Barry McGuire thing happened was I was coming up on episode 100. And I thought, man, this would be amazing. Because I always wanted to shoot for, like, as high up as I could get. Like, if I could get Barry McGuire, that'd be insane.
Yeah,
right?
He's
the pinnacle of the industry, right?
The biggest name in the industry.
The biggest name in the industry. So, and I just happened to live 30 minutes from their headquarters.
Okay.
Like, so I had Jason Rose and Michael Stoops, who work at McGuire's, on the show previously. And when I got them, I thought it was like the biggest thing ever, which it was at the time for me. I was nobody, and here I approached them to have them on the show, and then they invited me down to McGuire's headquarters to do the show there. And I thought, this is insane. A single man mobile detailer who has this wild idea to start a podcast is going now to McGuire's headquarters to record a podcast. That to me just like blew my mind.
Was it worth it?
100% worth it.
Did you walk away feeling enlightened by that?
I did. Okay. I really did. And of course, they have the McGuire's reps are polished. Whatever training they do for their reps and their guys is insane. They're
well scripted.
They're well scripted. Mm-hmm. Great guys. Like I really do like them, but they are polished.
There's no painting them in the corner. They see the corner well before you even try to get them there.
And it's an art form. Mm-hmm. It really is.
I can see that.
And so. That's probably what my biggest takeaway was, that of like, damn, you guys are good. Mm-hmm. Like There's no one that's gonna.
The marketing.
The marketing is insane.
Yeah, the marketing tongue is powerful.
Powerful.
It's seductive.
Very seductive.
Because even when you feel like you want to go in there and go, you know what, I know this. They got to be transparent here. You got to open them up, and it's almost like it's an endless try. It's like trying to attack a castle.
100%.
So well fortified.
Yes.
You're not getting in.
You're not getting in.
Right.
So then I used Jason Rose, who now works for Rupes, but he worked at McGuire's. I started a relationship with him because I started it to leverage people's followings to get my own following. And that's where the Larry King, Oprah, all those people come in, right? They were someone, but they leveraged someone else's following to make their show popular.
Okay.
So I thought that's a very basic, I could follow that because I don't have all the answers. And in the beginning, I wasn't confident enough to say I have all the answers. So for me to do a podcast solo was too much for me to think about. Like, I didn't want to put myself out there that much. So I thought, well, if I interview Jason Rose, I could just ask questions and I could be stupid about it. Tell me about this machine. That's a lot easier than me dissecting the machine and
or going toe to toe with him on a technical.
Not going to happen, right? So I leveraged him to get to Barry. Like 3 months before I was going to hit episode 100, I said, hey, I got this idea. I think it'd be awesome to interview Barry McGuire, episode 100. Pinnacle guy, Pinnacle episode number. I think it'd be great. Went through his assistant, took a couple months for us to get our schedules together, and then I get an email one day. I'm on the 605 freeway, almost to the 91, because I was doing cars at Carl's Jr.
Written by Barry himself?
His assistant.
Oh, okay.
Or actually, Jason emailed me and said, Jimbo, great news, Barry has agreed to do your podcast.
Awesome.
And I was like,
yeah, pull the car over. This is a big moment for you.
This is insane. I screenshotted the email, still have it. Huge moment for me, right? Because 100 episodes.
And I think I watched it. I did.
Yeah.
Because I do watch most of them if I can, but I remember the one with Barry.
And honestly, Barry was a great guy. Like, he came in specifically for that podcast. He was on his way to his high school reunion. And if you follow Barry on Instagram, I mean, the guy's freaking, like, never home, right? Never. And they got bought out, and he's got plenty of money.
Sure.
But he still is the face of McGuire's and does a great job at it. Very polished. It's very, you can see how their reps are, it's top down. I mean, whatever they do is amazing behind the curtain. But, out of respect for him, but I also felt, I don't write questions down to ask. I just have a conversation.
Did Barry say, hey, just come talk to me? Or did you want, no, there's not going to be a topic. No. Just come sit with me and we'll just let it flow.
And we're sitting there like this.
That's nice of him to be able to.
In his office, and he goes, so what do you want to talk about?
When all the pressure's on you.
Yeah.
Well, hey, I was just worried about getting the appointment. Don't ask me what I want to do now. I'm just happy the camera's rolling. I was hoping you'd do all the talking.
Yep. And I basically was like, well, let's start at the beginning. And that's where I like to start with everyone. Like, you could see Scott, Dallas Paint Correction, with 50,000 YouTube subscribers, and you could see him for what it is now. But tell me about Scott when you just started detailing. You know what I mean? And so I like to start there because it kind of levels the playing field.
Sure.
And it kind of disarms people, right? And so I didn't feel the sense to want to probe and ask random questions to Barry. And I'm very non-confrontational. So even with Ivan and those guys too, I'm just not very confrontational like that. I'd rather, if there's been people that haven't want to come on the show, and that's totally fine. And I think it's for reasons that they have secrets, and they're worried that I would ask them something that would trip them up and expose them. So, but now I'm getting more confident.
Right.
And I don't want to overstep to where I'm super confrontational and a dick about it, because that's not me. I just, like, it started with I wanted to leverage people for their followings, and now I just want relationships. Right. I could almost give a crap about the following.
Sure.
I just want to, like, know Scott and have breakfast with Scott and be like, dude, you're in town, let's hang out.
Right.
Because like I was saying at breakfast, there's people behind these brands, and there's people behind these online personas, and that's what I want. I just want to know them.
I would have broke the ice with Barry by saying, why do all your products dust?
That's becoming a very interesting,
If you look at German-made compounds and polishers, whatever the Germans are doing as far as lubrication is concerned and micro abrasives being able to break down with very little dusting, man, you look at a big company, it's like, Could you imagine owning Armor All? Think about you've got a huge name. Nobody doesn't know who you are. Why don't you just make better products? And you probably,
it's a good question.
If you sat with that company and they would go, why it costs us nothing to be the biggest dog in Walmart.
Right.
All people are buying this stuff. Why do we have to make it any better?
It brings up an interesting point. Is that's why I think some of those, and we're seeing it in retail with Toys R Us and all these other brands, getting eaten alive by little agile brands, because I think you used to be able to get away with that. Why would we change? Like, we've always done it this way.
We have a cult following. We can
do whatever we want.
They're gonna buy it.
But then these little brands, whether it be Drive Auto Appearance or whatever, start nipping. And Cameron doesn't need 40% market share with Armor All. Right. He needs like 0.025% of their following, right? Or maybe arbitrary numbers. But I think what we're going to start seeing is that's going to happen a lot more. You're not happy with Meguiar's products because they dust, or they do this, or they do that. So you start looking for the lesser known guys. And then you have a following and you start talking about those lesser known guys. And then someone who watches you on YouTube stops buying Meguiar stuff because of dust and they don't really like it. And so they buy Drive or whatever, or they buy CarPro or Optimum or whatever, right? And so maybe Optimum's a better, or something like that is a better, where they make, they do $5 million a year in revenue, but that to them is huge. They don't need to make $500 million in revenue like Meguiar's does or 3M does to keep the machine rolling. So
when you started and before you started doing the podcast, I think it's interesting that you realized, even as a young man, like, oh, this is going to be brutal. This isn't easy. What was your focus as far as, if you looked at all the services you could provide, even as a young guy, 23, 24, 25 years old, what services were you really interested in getting that made you the maximum amount of profit? And you said, you know what, I could do that for the next 30 years. That's not going to kill me forever, and that money's good.
It was... I really didn't want... I wanted to try to do stuff that wasn't physical. I was getting really burnt out on the physical aspect of detailing. And in the sun, and, I'm freaking sunburnt, and... I'm tired. And then it's like, well, if I'm exhausted from going and doing cars, and then I get home at 4 o'clock, because these guys that go 18 hours or even 12 hours or 14, it's like, I never did that. I was always home by 4 or 5 o'clock. Left at 8, home by 4 or 5, right? Maybe some random days where I left earlier or got home later, but I never pulled an all-nighter. I mean, that to me is just...
I still do that every once in a while.
Do you?
But it's selfish of me because I literally want to open up the next 4 days in my schedule where I don't want to work at all. I want to disappear and I want to go away for a while. So I'll bang out those customers that may be in my schedule and just get them all done in one day.
I will never do an all-nighter. I don't think I did. One time I did working at the retail store when we had inventory. But it's not what I want, right? Like, so to answer your question about... So that's being business-minded. I always, instead of the podcast is the first thing that I went, like, I dove into the detailing, like, industry. I was constantly trying to get out of the detailing industry.
Right.
And what I've realized is that the detailing industry has a funny thing of sucking you in deeper the more you try to get out of it. So I tried an odor removal business. I tried to do dent repair.
Oh, really? With PDR stuff?
Extremely hard to learn.
Yeah, with the mirror and the...
Yeah, but I took a 40-hour class, hands-on, and didn't have a garage to practice in because it's a lot about practice and stuff like that.
And where did that go? Nowhere?
Okay. Nothing ever went anywhere except for detailing.
Okay.
And detailing's cash on demand, too. So it's... and then I figured out how to get more clients. And so I just kept getting sucked in deeper and deeper because that was the one consistent, is that I knew I could go out and make money. Might only be $100 for the day, but sometimes I needed $100. You know what I mean? And so when the podcast came, it was just like, you know what? I've tried other things. I'm just going to go like dive deep into the detail industry and see where I can go and see if this podcast thing works. And then I found out I really liked it and I really enjoyed it because I got to meet people and doors started opening and I was at Barry's office and I'm like, how would this have ever happened before? You know, like this would have never happened. And then, you know, I met the Optimum guys and just met all these. And what I found out is, and it's funny, we were talking about this before, like the comments suck on YouTube.
Yes.
People are really rude. The Facebook groups.
Downright hateful.
Hateful.
Yeah.
The people in the Facebook groups suck a lot of the times, to be honest, right? But when you get people off the internet, and sorry, I'll let you talk in a second.
No, go ahead. I'm following
the people, when you meet them in person,
right,
and the people in the industry that actually run a business detailing are some of the greatest people in the world. I found out.
Right.
So, like yourself.
The stuff with like Facebook forums or even detailing communities on Facebook and stuff, what drives me nuts, and I avoid them like the plague. I don't like going on there very often, but I do sometimes, you know.
Yep.
And you'll get this one thing like I want to get a long throw DA. Yep. What do you guys? What's the best out there? I literally want to, like, my head wants to explode, because if you're going to ask 100 people, what is the best DA?
Right, you're going to get
ready for
100
different answers. Where are you? You're nowhere. And so people look at me and say, Scott, I watch your new videos. You're testing like 15, 20 DAs. Did you buy them? Yes, I did. I did buy them.
Right.
I played with them.
Right.
I thought the Griot's Boss machine, when I first bought it, versus the Rupes I was using. I said, I like this. And then I started to see its little flaws. It was stalling a lot on me. And I said, man, I guess I'm not in love with this Griot G15. And I started looking at other cheaper DA brands from China and stuff like that. And I found some of them, whatever they're doing with the counterweight, they weren't as finicky as stalling and stuff like that. And I was able to work with it. But, you know, those forums can be a very twisted, endless rabbit hole.
Yeah.
And it's very difficult.
I see you get in there a little bit.
Yeah, well, you know, it's just, I think sometimes I poke a little bit. You know what it is, to be honest with you? I get tired of getting beat up on YouTube so much. So
you're retaliating.
So sometimes I go in and I go, you know what? I'm going to poke this little kid here because I've had it up to here.
Right.
And then I have to sit back and go, wow, I'm 46 years old. What is wrong with me?
Right.
What am I, an idiot? It's all fun.
It's all fun.
Yeah.
Let's use this to get into some questions from people on the internet.
Sure.
Because you posted in the Auto Detailing Podcast page that...
I think somebody asked, what about coatings? Do you do a lot of coatings?
I don't do a lot, but I had a... So I got really, and if this is irrelevant, cut me off at any point.
Am I still in view?
I think so. I was going to double check to make sure we're still recording and all is good, and we're all good.
Because I have a confession.
Yeah, you're still barely in view. Maybe I could back it up a little bit.
I'm sorry?
No, you're good. You're good. Yep.
So the reason why I'm squirming in the chair, I'm going to tell you a story.
Because you're showing your face.
No. That's fine. Just see my hands. I was working last week, and I have a Werner metal workbench, and I was cutting paint with a roll pad and a rotary, and I wanted to stand up just to see if I was creating any holograms. I knew I was, because I was being awfully aggressive. I must have pushed the bench back just a little bit further than I don't think I even realized I bumped it. I decided to fall back into the chair as if I knew it was still there, with all my weight. And the corner of that metal bench hit me bullseye where you don't want it to hit you, square in the chocolate starfish. I threw up.
Are you serious?
I sat there for 20 minutes.
So are you hurting?
I am still hurting. If you looked
Does it hurt to sit?
If you looked at my backside right now, it looks like I went to go fight Mike Tyson, but I decided to walk into the ring backwards.
Oh.
So if I'm squirming and moving around, but I'm fine. It's much better than it was.
It's not because you're nervous of being in my studio.
No, your studio is really great. It's not all that intimidating. But you know, the last 3 or 4 nights have been brutal to try to sleep. I'm actually throbbing all night long, and not in a good way.
Ouch.
Yeah, and I think what had happened, I'm looking at my reflection in the paint, going, I hate my job. I hate this. I don't want to do this anymore.
So what? I guess. Why do you still do it then? Because we've talked, and we don't need to get into specifics, but you have said that you could walk away right now.
Oh yeah, and I'm highly interested in doing it. I would.
Would you still make videos then, or no? Or would you?
Yeah, I think I probably would. I think if it was interesting to me, if I felt I was.
Do you enjoy doing the videos?
No.
Okay.
The only reason why I don't like doing it is because I just feel like again, it's my perspective, right?
Sure.
I can tell you what I enjoy
Right.
doing, what I think works for me, but I
Right.
also know that opens up the door to people going, what are you, an idiot?
Right.
I wouldn't do it that way. That's fine. I'm
Right.
not saying you need to do it my way.
Right.
All I'm doing is sharing my perspective.
And I guess that's where I was too when I first started with podcasting. Is I didn't want to open myself up to that, I guess. So I
I've
thought,
gotten better at it. I've gotten better at it. You know, sometimes
it's really difficult.
because people, you said it, they're a nasty people.
Yeah.
Jimbo. It really is sad that they're a nasty people.
And I think one thing I always talk with guys in person about is like the reality of detailing and doing a car and being profitable doing that car, and then how people say you should do it on the internet, or how even manufacturers say you should do it, is almost totally different.
You wouldn't make any money.
You would not make any money.
And people don't want to hear that. They don't want to hear.
People don't want to hear
the
that.
The ones looking out from the outside in, I
Right.
want to get into this industry. I've
Right.
done all my research.
Yeah.
I have very little hands-on experience, but boy, have I investigated all these great fancy
Right.
products. And they tell us to do it like this.
Right.
And then we're watching a pro using that same product, and it looks like he's taking shortcuts.
Right.
Well, there's reasons for it, kids.
Right.
If we actually had to sit in somebody's driveway or have that car for 20 hours,
Right. You wouldn't.
I'm
make
out.
money.
I wouldn't even be interested, Jim.
I'm not even interested.
I wouldn't want to polish somebody's car for 20 hours, even if they were willing to pay for it.
It's so, oh God, and I hesitate to even say this because of the backlash. But if I have to polish, I actually try to talk people out of machine polishing their
Very
car.
smart.
And I try to rationalize that to the customer as either let me do a test spot and tell me if you could see any difference. Because here's the thing, I tell them, and customers react good to this and they like it. If you can't see the difference, I have to still charge you for that.
Yeah, why are you paying for it?
Why are you going to pay for it if
Right.
you can't see a difference?
Right.
So, and as soon as I say that, adds credibility, they love it, do whatever you got to do, and then I could be more profitable doing a wash clay wax.
And see, somebody on YouTube who's watching this video
Yep.
says, you're a hack. You shouldn't be doing that. That shouldn't be
Right.
your approach. But
I
you've
get
been
it all the time.
completely honest and transparent with your client and said, listen, I can charge you $900
Right.
to do this
Yeah.
car. I can charge you $400.
Yep.
Let's look at $400
Yeah.
and $900 on 2 test
The
spots.
RV I was telling you about,
Right.
perfect example.
Right.
He thought it needed to be color sanded and buffed. He wouldn't have paid the price. But
Plus, he was a family member, too,
plus
so you're not going to kill him.
I'm not going to kill him, right?
But you knew what it was going to take if you had to buff that
Right.
whole thing. You're going to be like, even if I wish you weren't a family member, because
Right.
I would be able to charge you.
But I didn't even want to do it because I'm thinking, here's what I'm thinking. Okay, even if I get rolling scaffolding, there's no way around a 37-foot RV.
No,
I mean,
it's
just
endless.
huge.
It doesn't go away.
It doesn't go away, right? So I'm
And
thinking,
it's so heavy on the mind, too.
So
When you-
heavy.
You've got 10 feet through, and you're looking at the next 20
Right.
feet, and you're like, oh crap, there's a whole nother side to do. You've lost interest in all of it.
all of it. So I thought, I'm at, even for a family member, I'm at $2,500.
Right.
Because here's the thing, I have other clients.
Yeah.
So-
I don't need to do this for you. Even though I love you, Uncle So-so, I don't need to do it.
Right. Even worse, father-in-law. So, but like I told you, and I'll be transparent, like I said, I have nothing to hide, right?
Right.
So I went around the whole thing,
I think the acid bath
wiped it with an acid bath,
is a smart thing. to do.
and worked.
Sure.
And it looked great, and he even
Sure.
said, wow, the RV looks great. And I
Right.
charged him $200.
And there's people out there that believe in 10 years from now the RV is going to fall apart because of what you
He's
did.
not going to have it in 10 years.
It's silly. I'm just teasing.
No, I know, and I welcome it,
Mm-hmm.
because you do see these guys that just go through endless steps and over-explain stuff and just get in the minutia of it. And I think, to your point earlier when you're like, I think your channel should have more views or whatever,
Mm-hmm.
I think it's because I don't play to that. I don't get stuck in the weeds of minutia, but neither do you. So I don't know. I think people are drawn to, if you look at Larry with ammo, he won't come on the podcast.
You've asked him.
I've asked him.
Okay. What was the response? Did you physically get to talk to him, or was it all
I
done
was
by
texting
email?
him.
Okay. So you have his number to the Batcave.
Mm-hmm.
Now I've met him several times. He is a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't want to do a podcast. Was he transparent and why?
No. Kept saying he kept he was never upfront with why. He just kept leading me along, And through that I go, I'm reading between the lines. I get it. Which is, by the way, 100% okay. Like, just because someone doesn't want to do my podcast, I don't take it personal.
Right,
like,
right.
It's okay.
Right.
Just tell me no.
But interesting that he would do it with Matt Mormon as long as they were talking about his product and he can obviously sell his product.
Which I was welcome to him. There we go. When it clicks, it stops recording. They don't pay me $500 an episode, but we have an agreement worked out that works for me, works for them. Yeah, because I'm giving them exposure. Mm-hmm. No different than if you were to buy a billboard or buy an ad or anything like that. However, if Scott has a product, perfect example, Cameron Johnson, Drive Auto Appearance. Mm-hmm. I didn't charge him to come on the show. I wanted to hear...
Did you physically meet him, or was it done by Skype?
It was done by Skype. I didn't physically meet him.
Okay.
But he has a product line. I was well aware of the product line.
Yeah.
I never told him, don't talk about your products. But I wanted to hear his story, and part of his story is starting a product line.
Right.
Did he get sales from that? I don't know. Maybe.
No,
so...
And I've gotten beat up quite a bit by talking about his products. Now, there's a couple of different things. One, I don't work for Cam. I don't make a dime off the product. I've actually purchased the product. Mm-hmm. It's like, you can be as honest and transparent as you want.
Right.
People on YouTube are just not going to believe it.
And on the flip side, I've had people send me products, and I've never talked about them.
Right.
Never charged them for it, but they sent me products wanting me to do a review, and I've never talked about it because I don't really like it, and I don't want to bash them.
Right. So, and I've done that too.
So I just don't do it.
I will say to somebody, hey, listen, I just didn't enjoy the product. There's no reason for me to...
Right.
Why would I waste my time talking about something I don't like? I don't have much time to make the videos anyway.
Right.
Why would I do that? I have no reason to hurt you.
And similarly to detailing, I do it for money, for a business. I enjoy it. I like it. But you saw I got 4 mouths to feed, 5 with the dog, 6. So it's like...
And you don't live in the cheapest area.
And I don't live in the cheapest area.
Southern California.
Which it's not all about the money for me. It's really not. But if a brand is approaching me for publicity, that means they see value in what I have. Similarly to a customer that needs their car detailed and is hiring a professional because they see value in that. Therefore, there's a money exchange for the value exchange. Mm-hmm. It's like, you want me to talk about your LaCroix or your towels or whatever? I'd be more than happy to. And if they're good, and with Auto Fiber, I went through their whole product line.
And you liked it?
Loved it. Met Ian, went down and talked with Ian, saw the facility, loved it. Loved what he was doing. He's an innovator. I'm like, I can align with this. But I need to be compensated because I've worked the past 4 years building a following and an audience and being trustworthy and being, credible.
Was that uncomfortable for you to open that door and go, you know what, I need to be paid? Because I've seen you be very mild a little bit.
A little bit. And it is uncomfortable. Mm-hmm. And I don't like it. But is it fair if I'm not compensated?
Right.
It's not fair to me that I could be doing something else. Or promoting my own line or my own products, or I could be buying from Auto Fiber, wrapping it up under my own name and calling it mine and not mentioning Auto Fiber.
Right.
So I just wanted, I'm and what I tell sponsors too when they come on, and I'm transparent with sponsors, is look, this needs to be a win-win-win. Win for me, a win for you, and a win for the audience. If we can't accomplish that, there's no point in doing it. I'm not just reaching out to people taking their money because I would need money. It's, I'm going to let my audience know about something good. You're going to benefit from that, and I'm going to benefit from it. And we're going to be a perfect little circle. Everyone's making money, everyone's getting good stuff, and we're all good. Because there's a lot of crap out there, too.
I guess my whole approach on YouTube is, I listen to what you're saying, and I'm like, you know what, I want in on that. I want to deal with that.
Right.
Maybe I should get some money for the companies I talk about. There's a part of me that just doesn't want to do it.
Yeah.
It may be because I'm mentally lazy.
And you got to be comfortable with it.
Yeah,
and everyone's got to do it.
Even if somebody said to me, "Hey, listen, we're willing to give you this," I wouldn't even know really how often do I got to talk about it.
Right.
Do I have to really be in love with it?
And there's no set. Here's the hard part. There's no hard set rule about it should cost this much.
Right.
It's whatever you think it's worth.
Right.
So how do you, when Auto Fiber approached me, I was like, I don't really know how much to charge because I'm not getting millions of downloads every month, but my retention rate per episode, people listen to 80-95% of the episode.
Great.
So it's like how people act on, even though it's a smaller pool, the people are more active with what they're doing. So anyway, I don't know where we were going with that, but that was it. You know, but I don't think it's. I like to juice the lemon. You know, so if
and you're hoping all of this will translate into Jimbo not having to clean the tire.
This is me putting in sweat equity. This is my retirement plan.
Do you feel you lose touch with it? Like, say everything just worked out for you.
Yeah.
Everything started to mow. Holy crap, I can make a living doing this. I can feed my kids.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be detailing.
Yeah.
Do you feel like
it's
you're
incredibly scary.
Are you going to lose a little touch with that? Like,
which is why I will never stop detailing.
Okay, all right. So you're going to stay into it.
Yeah.
And what is detailing? Let's say this is really fruitful for you. You just want to keep continuing to enjoy your passion.
Yep.
Which services are you going to do and only do? Are you going to be tackling a Honda Accord that hasn't been vacuumed in 8 years?
No.
Okay. All right. So what does it look like?
And I'm also not going to be doing any service that I can complete under 2 hours.
Ooh, you want to be done in 2 hours and gone.
2-3 hours and gone. I get bored with, the thing that's really served me well with mobile detailing is I'm in a. Are you already spilling
all myself? Yeah. If it fell on my backside, which is throbbing right now, that would be great.
I get bored with surroundings.
Okay.
So, if I'm somewhere 5 hours working on a car, I'm smoked. I'm done. Like, I don't want to be there.
You start to see your work kind of go.
Yep, 100%.
And guess what? That happens to everybody.
Okay.
By the way. I don't care how good you are. Yeah.
And so, that 2-3 hour mark is really that sweet spot for me to where, like...
where your tank starts to get empty.
Yep. Mm-hmm. It gives me enough time. I can go get a coffee. I can go get food. I could go get water if I need it. Like, I probably got to go to the bathroom by that time. Like, you know what I mean? There's just certain things... And don't worry about the rings. But, so it's express services. And I think people really... They go for the high end. One of my goals was like $1,000 detail. If I could get $1,000, because I heard Jason Rose talk about he remembers the first time he got his $1,000 detail, and that was like a huge thing. Well, I've done $2,000 details, and honestly, they're super stressful. The customers nitpick the crap out of it, and it's at the end of the day, it's not that profitable. It extended into 2 days. I had to hold the car over for a third day. It was black, so I'm like trying to dust control on a correction and coating. And I looked at it and I went, sweet, I made $2,000. It was a nightmare.
Right.
I would have rather gone and done,
your kids didn't like being around you that night because you were on.
I didn't want to park it in the garage because I didn't want the kids coming out, and then
you're
it's
a miserable husband for the next 2 days. Right.
And I'm like, sweet, I got a big payday.
Right.
But it sucked.
It ultimately cost you a lot.
It cost me a lot. Mm-hmm. So ideally, I'm probably detailing 2 to 3 days a week with probably my regular customers that don't ask too many questions.
Yes.
If I miss a spot, they don't, they're not burning me for it. They pay well. Mm-hmm. They probably pay cash. They're just easy and enjoyable to work with, and they get an express service. So I'm talking wash, clay, wax, max. No machine polishing. I hate machine polishing. Like, just being honest, I can do it with the best of them. Mm-hmm. I will never participate in a buff off because that's just weird, right? It's just freaking weird,
right?
Okay. And if I were to participate in a buff off, I would find
it doesn't even sound appealing.
It doesn't even sound appealing.
Where do I get a trophy?
Who cares? For other detailers to tell me I'm good at polishing,
I wouldn't even show up at this thing.
Anyway, I would find the product with the most amount of filler, and that's how I would win. Anyway. So I've interviewed guys that love paint polishing. They love it. It's their life, and that's awesome.
Yeah, that's cool.
And I did legitimately ask them. I'm like, you don't get. I think it was Nick Chapman, who's I don't know if he's by you. He's in Texas. Nick Chapman, where's he at? I don't know. I think he's in Texas. Anyway, I asked him. I had him on the show, and I said, "Do you really love polishing paint? Like, do you love..." I just stopped that recording too. Do you love... So do you love polishing paint? He said, I really do. I don't get bored with it. And I thought, wow, man,
That's cool for him.
That was great.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
How old is he?
I'd say 40s.
Okay, so he's been doing it a while?
Yeah, been doing it a long time. Does some very high-end cars. Does great work.
Is he always working indoors?
He is now. He does have a shop now. He was mobile. I just don't, even when I'm indoor in a climate-controlled area, I don't like polishing paint.
It's monotonous. It's boring.
It's very boring to me. And I guess that's what it is. It's that it's just so boring. That I'm in, out, quick, like the best result, fastest possible, least amount of effort.
Yeah.
I
think for me, it's like the name of my company, Dallas Paint Correction, right? It implies that I do a lot of it. And Jimbo, I do. I have done a lot of it. And I'm tired of it. Guys ask me all the time on YouTube, Scott, I want to be that great two-step guy. I want to know how to get perfection. I want to know how to get absolute mirror image. And I look at that and I go, are you sure that's what you want to be? Do you really want that clientele? I'll tell you an experience I had about 2 or 3 months ago. Guy had a Dodge Challenger or something. He bought it from Florida, sight unseen. Had somebody go down and look at it for him. They ship it up by train. It's a limited numbered vehicle, right? It's a 2002, 2001 Challenger. And the guy calls me up, and I had done work for him before, and I know this guy. He's the guy that puts his nose right up against the paint. He's getting the flashlight out. He probably owns a scan grip, even though he's not a professional. He owns a Rupes inspection light. I will tell you right now, and if you've got new viewers that are thinking about getting into paint correction, that is the last customer you ever, ever want to work for.
Right.
Okay? So I show up to look at this thing. I already knew it was going to be a challenge anyway. I knew his temperament. And as I walk into the garage, he had like this white chalk pen or marker.
And he had marked all the areas.
There must have been 100 tiny circles all the way around the car. I literally had my polisher in my hand. I had an extension cord.
And you walked away.
And Jimbo, I wanted to walk to my truck and go, oh, you gotta be kidding me.
So what'd you do?
I did it. I did the car.
How did it turn out?
He loved it.
Right.
But there were areas of the paint. You got to remember, I had no history about this car. There was wet sanding marks on this vehicle. It was bought in Florida, and somebody had a car cover on it. It was by the beach.
Okay.
Sand had gotten underneath the car cover, and the car cover was bouncing with the wind.
Right.
It had pitted the hood. I don't care what I could. I took a rotary and a wool pad, and I cut it heavy. I took you could feel the pittiness of the paint. And I cut it enough to be able to get you and I, even though we do this for a living, we walk up to it and go, pretty sweet.
Yeah, right.
To him, it wasn't good enough. He was fine. I controlled the expectations before I had begun.
Which is important.
Which is huge. But even with me controlling the expectations, knowing his temperament, I was not completely satisfied with the job in the end. And I said, you know what? I don't give a crap. The guy just paid me $2,500 to do this vehicle.
Right.
I still feel like, although there was nothing I had done wrong.
Right. Yes.
There was nothing I could have done any differently.
Right.
But because he gave me that experience.
Right. Yep. You hated it.
Guess what? I will not do paint correction for him again.
Which is similar to the feeling, and some people don't understand this too, when you get a really destroyed car and you go to shampoo the mats and there's nothing you could do to get that last little bit.
They're replaceable. Go buy new ones.
Which is now what I tell people. But say the seats or whatever, right? So you're working on just a cord or something, you know, and you just can't get it good, but you had to charge a lot because it was destroyed. Yeah. And then you deliver it and you get paid good, but the car just kind of bums you out because
you had the impossible. You tried to work on the impossible.
Yeah, you can't reverse wear, which is what I tell people. It's kind of that same feeling of like, it's a sour feeling of like, I kind of feel like I ripped them off, but I didn't. But I kind of, it's just like, contrast that to someone who just wants smooth paint and they want to know it's protected.
Right.
And they come out and they look at your car and they're like, they do the rub and they're like, ooh, I love that. Yeah. And then they write you a check leaning on the hood. Right. And you walk away, they're stoked, you're happy. That's what I like.
I'll tell you the customers I tend to target and the customers I tend to attract. They are people with a healthy amount of disposable income. They have nice vehicles. They tend to be value shoppers, but they weren't silver spoon kids.
Right.
They worked hard to get the money they had. Right. And
Yes.
they're really cool because I would say about 80% of my clients are the type that are like, hey Scott, I'm not expecting perfection.
Right.
Thank God, because I don't want to give it to you either. I don't have the time.
Because it's unrealistic.
Yeah.
You
So
know?
my customers are like, hey, listen, I'm willing to spend. I have customers that just gave me 2 F-150s, right? They were King Ranch's 4 doors. I washed, played, all in one the vehicle for $500-600. There was 2 trucks. That's $1,200 I made in less than 6 hours. Don't come to me and tell me, why don't you do coatings? Well, because I don't want to paint correct that car
Right.
for 10-15 hours trying to get 95% of the defects off the paint and then try to put a coating on it so I can make $2,000. Wait a minute. I had 2 really happy customers who would kiss my ass in Macy's window for the service they received, and I made $1,200 between the 2 of them.
Yep.
And I was home in less than 6 hours.
Yep.
Am I an idiot?
Right. Well, I think what people are starting to see with coatings too is, and my approach to it was like, no one was really talking about coatings a couple years ago. So again, in a way to try to gain a bigger following or get a bigger following, I thought, man, I'm going to start putting out content on coatings because no one else is doing it. So inevitably, people are going to start asking about it. So that's kind of, but I think what we're starting to see with coatings is that, and no one was talking about this like last year or the year before when coatings were really getting hot, is like, so that customer that paid you $2,000 to do that car, how often are they coming back?
Right.
Because
what's the maintenance on it?
What's the maintenance on it? Because if you haven't sold that, and now we're having like coating maintenance products come out, which I think are great, and I think you can use coating maintenance products on cars standalone, which would be better than coating the car in the first place. Because what is the lifetime value of a customer? And if no one's talking about that and no one's thinking about that, that $2,000 job may be cool for a quick hit, but the lifetime value of that customer without a coating may be far more than that. And no one was talking about that. So I started talking about it. Because it's like, well, I got a customer that if you were to see their cars, you would call me a serious hack, right? But I take care of their cars. They pay me about $1,000 a month. All black cars. They have spider webbing to the nth degree, right? They're Mercedes. They don't give a shit.
That's 80% of my clients.
They don't care. They just want their car shiny and clean. They never complain. They pay me cash. I see them every week. I'm there an hour and a half. I got 6 hours in total, $1,000 a month. That's the, like, am I going to sell them on a correction and coating? No way. Because, by the way, they got their Teflon coating from the dealer. They're good. I don't even want, well, I do wax the cars because I wax them with the drying aid.
Okay.
But I never tell them I do that. I just do it. I never even really talk to them, to be honest. It's just I show up every Thursday, same time, handle it, ring the doorbell.
And they love you.
Love me. Greatest.
You don't have to justify it to
They
anybody.
tip me $200.
That's your business.
They tip me $200 for Christmas
Okay.
and my birthday.
Then you are the best detailer for them.
For them. And that's
Done.
okay.
You're done.
And I just want more people to realize that.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
let's get into a couple questions.
Sure.
Do you have a uniform?
No.
That was just my random question I had.
No. That's never really been. I probably should, but it's never really been an issue for me. Now I'm presentable when I go to the job. I'm not a dirtbag when I show up there, but no set uniform. I don't even have invoices with my company name on it.
I tell them I'm eco-friendly, and I'll email you an invoice.
Oh wow.
Through Square.
Okay.
It's really easy.
Do you do a lot of credit card stuff?
About half.
Do you like it? Is it?
It's fine.
What are you losing? 3% of the
Yeah,
sale?
it's not. But there's a tip function on top.
And they always give?
Always tip.
That's amazing.
I say, hey, look, before you sign, there's an option to tip at the top if you feel inclined. If not, no big deal. And
they almost feel bad not doing it.
Which is why I say that. So I've made more in tips, because you could look at it through the year.
Sure.
I've made more in tips to cover the credit card processing fees and make money on top
Beautiful.
of it. So
it's a no-brainer.
It's a no-brainer. Jeremy asks, what services are most profitable to you?
Oh, God. That's easy. Smoke odor removal with really intense, high-pressurized systems, ozone generators out there. I'm not talking about a box you put inside the vehicle.
Kind of like mine?
Yeah, I've got machines that are bigger than that.
Got it.
But I literally can, in my smoke odor, the way I've marketed myself with smoke odor removal are the ones who just bought a car from a dealership.
Got it.
So the car's
How do you market to them? Or do you not want to say?
No, I think I've done it through years of doing it and having a high success rate. And actually, the dealers will mention my name to a potential buyer. Let's say they're getting ready to sell the vehicle,
right?
And that potential buyer goes, "I think I smell something." Now the dealer's done everything they can to mask it, heavy extracting. Yes. They've even extracted the headliner. They've done everything wrong, right? But they killed it as much as they could with all these chemicals. So here's my deal: I get that phone call within 30 to 60 days after the car is sold.
Gotcha.
I'm not cleaning the car.
No way.
In fact, you have to be very careful with surfactants you use if you're going to use an ozone generator right after the service anyway, because you can introduce a new smell. I actually want it to smell like smoke.
Right.
Because ozone gas is not smart. It only goes after odor.
Right.
So I look at that car. So most of my clients who just bought a car within the last 30 to 60 days from a major dealership.
Right.
I know it's been heavily cleaned.
Right.
They probably put chlorine tabs inside that car, Nuvo air, that whole crap, right?
Right.
So the only thing I'm going to do is blow out vents. I will do a heavy vacuuming of every surface. Ozone generator, high output, high pressurized system, 2 hours, $400.
What do you do for the 2 hours? Do you sit there or do you leave?
There are times where I can kind of leave depending on where my client lives. Most of my clients live in high-end neighborhoods or whatever, so I can leave the generator and leave.
Gotcha.
There's sometimes I might even be texting you during the day or
right,
sending you a message. Or I'm on the forum going, this guy's an idiot. Let me teach him for 20 minutes.
Right,
you know?
Catch up on business and work and stuff. Let's go back.
And it's not, here's my business, right? It's Dallas Paint Correction.
Right.
2 steps make you some great money.
Right.
And aggressive ones make great money. I have to say, if I look at my paint correction numbers at the end of the year, and I'm really, really honest with myself, yes, the 2 steps look like big money, right? And then I say, boy, what did that cost me all year round? I am really tired.
Yep.
I'm bummed out.
Yes.
My daughter wants to go to Disney World, and I'm walking around like I'm an old man.
Yes.
You know what? The most money in paint correction is paint enhancement.
Yep. That's where I cut my teeth. Was when I first got started. I remember I didn't even really think about paint correction, other than someone would call me and say, "Hey, I have buffer-induced swirl marks. Can you remove the swirl marks?" And all they wanted was the swirl marks gone. They didn't care about the spider webbing. So it was like a quick one step with the swirl remover. Holograms.
Okay.
And that's it.
Right.
Okay. So on that vein, David asks, if you could only use one compound, one polish, and one all-in-one, I guess that's 3 separate products. What would it be and why? And what would it be right now? I guess.
It's a great question, but I think that's really unrealistic. If you're going to be doing this in business, you have to have a couple different compounds and polishes available to you. I will tell you the most balanced correcting compound I have used in a very long time is Jescar correcting compound.
Okay.
The reason why I say that, I'm a huge fan of Sonex Cutmax. I don't talk about it a lot. If I'm whipping out a rotary with a wool pad and I want to remove defects faster than anybody else's business, I'm using it with Sonex Cutmax.
Got it.
Sonex Cutmax does not finish out as well as Jescar, but it's more aggressive.
Got it.
Jescar is the most balanced as far as dusting is concerned, working well with all types of paint system, whether it's European hard clear or Jaguar soft.
Got it.
Because even with an aggressive pad, Jescar will begin to really start to finish out really well, where if you do have to finish with the second step, you're not on the paint long.
Got it.
Now, as far as, so that's correcting compound.
Okay.
Like I answered it by saying Jescar is the most balanced, Sonex is the most aggressive.
Yep.
When it comes to a finish polish, I love Sonex Perfect Finish. I don't like the way it pulls off paint, though, because if you're working on soft paint, for beginners who might be looking at this, if you're trying to remove a polish or a compound, however you want to look at it, off hard paint, it's relatively easy. You can get it off with a nice microfiber towel. When you're working on really soft Jaguar paint, now we're talking about even the finest polish can feel like you're trying to push concrete.
Yes.
So I really like Sonex Perfect Finish for its ability to really finish out well with some of the best clarity I have ever seen. And the second one to that is the Finesse with Americana Global. And the reason why I say it is because Americana Global has a product that's $40 for 32 ounces versus $69. And they're so darn close. I almost can't tell the difference between two of them.
Got it.
So you got to save a little bit of money.
Gotcha.
All-in-ones? They want to know about an all-in-one?
Yep.
So HD Speed, right? Everybody loves HD Speed. You can't go wrong with HD Speed. It's a great way for anybody to
Right.
have a all-in-one
Have you
product.
tried their they call it the upgraded HD
The
speed
505, whatever it is.
I think it's junk.
And it's fresh
Yeah.
paint safe and all that stuff. It still leaves a Montane wax?
I don't know.
Okay.
I tried it, and
I know, but it's like
it's double the
$69.
price
Right,
of
right.
HD speed, and I thought it was actually worse than HD speed. But that was just one man's opinion.
What I find with HD speed though is if you're working it too long, you got to remember as a professional, if I'm going to use an all-in-one, I'm not going to be using it like I'm one-stepping a car. I think people look at HD speed or they look at all-in-one products and they consider that a one-step. That's not technically true.
Right.
Any cleaner wax, let's be honest, it's
Right.
a cleaner wax. That is a paint enhancement service.
Right.
It has nothing to do with paint correction whatsoever.
Right.
Because it's filling the panel to some degree.
Which there could be an argument that all polishes and compounds fill to a certain degree.
Well, if they don't have fillers, it's impossible.
M100 fills a little bit.
Is that their foam or their wool?
That's the wool.
Okay.
So I've panel wiped it
Are
with
they
alcohol.
transparent about it?
No. Because it's a correction. It's like...
Do they use the word glaze with that
No.
on? Okay.
It's a Pro Speed compound, I believe.
Okay.
But when you wipe it with alcohol, you will remove some oils. Because there has to be some oils and stuff to make... You can't take an abrasive in its rawest form and not mix it with something.
So the lubricating oils.
So
you
the
feel
lubricating oils will fill to a certain degree, which is... I mean, I'm not a chemist. I just work...
And you're not
blended
marring the
food.
surface by using IPA right immediately after cutting the paint to see if it's...
Say that again?
You don't think you're marring the surface of the paint? Are you doing a 2x2 area rather aggressively and then using IPA immediately and wiping?
Yes.
Are you seeing what you think is, oh, it's fillers because I see marring here? Are you creating the marring during the wipe?
That's a good point. I don't think so.
Okay.
I don't think so. But that's a very complicated, windy road.
Did you felt it was filling quite a bit?
No, not quite a bit.
Okay.
Definitely not a lot. Just a little bit. So when people say, like, HD speed, I'd never use that because there's fillers. It's like, well, hold on a second. Everything has oils in it and will fill to a certain extent.
Are you going to put a wax and sealant at the end of the job? You're going to be filling the panel anyway.
Good point. So, I think this is a good question. Scott Birch says, what keeps you going, able to weather 25 plus years when you develop a relationship with a customer? What does that look like? Any service detailers are overlooking that they need to add? That was a long one. Okay, so what keeps you going after 25 years? What I think we kind of touched on this earlier. What is keeping you going from not pulling out completely?
The money.
The money. Me too.
The money is
It's too
keeping me
easy.
there.